and welcome to another episode of the Third Impact Anime Podcast. This is Sully, and I'm here with another interview, and this time we have Samantha Ferreira, who is currently working to bring the Anime Herald, the website that was founded in 2010, to print. And we're here to talk to her all about the process of taking a fan news site that has been going on for I guess 15 years now, 2010, and bringing it to print for the first time. And Samantha, thank you so much for taking time out of what is surely a very busy schedule trying to get this thing off the ground to speak with us.
Not at all. Thank you for having me.
So I want to go a little bit about you and your background. You started writing reviews and being the senior editor for Anime Dream, and then after that, you moved on and founded your own base news site with Anime Herald. Can you talk a little bit about how that got started?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've actually been writing since I was about 16 years old, so that was about 2000. I actually started by freelancing in games media, but I just didn't really like the atmosphere. I was more of an anime fan for most of my life, so I saw that Anime Dream, which was a sister site to RPG Fan, was hiring. I applied in 2001, got rejected. Applied again in 2002, and was added as a reviewer among a group of other people. And I worked as a reviewer for about a year and a half or so before moving to the news desk, where I would work as a news reporter, then news editor for about 5-6 years or so, before basically going up to a senior editorial position, where I was basically contacting representatives from, say, Central Park Media, Bandai, Funimation, companies like that, to negotiate things like screeners, press releases that we could get our coverage onto. And that was pretty much where I stayed until about 2009-ish, when we were starting to have the talks at Anime Dream about closing things up, winding things down. And everyone else was kind of at that point where it's like, we're pretty much done. We'd like to move on to other things. But I never really wanted to stop, so I talked with Matt, and I said, hey, Matt, I want to start my own thing. Matt was my editor-in-chief, Matt Brown. I said, hey, Matt, I want to talk to you about something. I'm thinking about starting my own publication, and I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but I would like to know if I could have your blessing to go, because I know Anime Dream is still here. He gave me his full blessing. He said, honestly, you have my full blessing, you have my full support. If there's anything you need, I'm happy to do what I can. And I ventured forth with a WordPress install, a cheap, like, $6 hosting plan with a rinky-dink hosting company, and a dream. I founded Anime Dream in September 2010. It started primarily as kind of like a repository for personal articles, things like that, and quickly evolved to become something a bit bigger, as we had a few team members come on for reviews and pieces like that. We started expanding out into like anime news, convention coverage, becoming more of a general purpose site. But the big issue was that a lot of the articles being written were unfortunately being done by me, because I was still working news desk. So I actually worked myself into a couple of nervous breakdowns before I said, all right, I cannot keep doing this. We have to change direction. So in 2019, we basically took a hard look at what we were doing and said, 2018, we took a hard look at what we were doing. We started looking into things that we could do to change direction. And it actually wasn't until Anime Expo, where I met with a bunch of people from the West Coast the first time. One of them was Zach Birchie, whom I always had a lot of respect for. Rest in peace, yes. He was a great guy. And I was actually met him for the first time, and we were talking. He said, I like your stuff, but I really think you're best work would be if you stay with the long form. It seems like that's where you're most comfortable and where you can do the most good. So in 2009, at the end of 2018, we made the decision to switch to a fully crowdfunded long form publication, and from there we've just been growing ever since as a magazine, an online magazine that's been fully independent, which has been wonderful. And we're celebrating our 15th anniversary next month. It's already August. Oh my god. And to celebrate that, we're going to be launching our first ever print edition.
You mentioned that it was around 2018, 2019 that you and your team started looking at where you wanted to go next. How big of a team were you working with at that point?
Fairly small. In the decision making process, it was pretty much myself, a confidant of mine, Lydia, and a few other people that I was like very close with. We also had at the time, I think, see if I remember my roles correctly, it was LP Bryan, who worked with us as fill-in for news and features. We had MJ Warren was a reviewer. We had Seth Byrne, who is still with us. He is a columnist, a writer and interviewer, one of the best in the absolute industry, and I have a lot of respect for him. I'm kind of blanking at the others, but it was about 5 or 6 people.
I do want to go back just a little bit, and you talk about you were about 16 in 2000 when you start applying to these writing jobs, and I guess I'm curious, like, what is your sort of anime journey? Like, how do you? And I'm going to go ahead and say I notice you say anime, and I know that is the correct pronunciation, but my southern accent like forces me to say anime.
Oh,
Um,
it's all good.
but I was going to ask, like, what is your sort of anime journey? Like, how do you get into the fandom, and then what makes you, what's the impetus to start wanting to write about it and write reviews and start like doing the journalism aspect of it?
Okay, well, I actually started when I was very, very, very young. I was about 7 or 8 years old when I first encountered like anime as anime, because I was a child of the 80s. I was born in 84, and I kind of grew up with like that cartoon scape of these shows that were basically like imported from Japan or co-productions and like that, like say Transformers, Ghostbusters, along with translated works like say Voltron, Saber Rider, and what have you. Robotech, obviously. And my uncle actually cued in on that fairly quickly. So when I was visiting him in Bristol, Rhode Island, many years ago, so about 1992, if I was 8 years old, he said, "I know you like cartoons, and I know you like the science ones with the robots, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "All right, I got something to show you." And he dragged me into his room, sat me in front of his TV, and he put in a tape. And the first thing I saw was that iconic shot of the Galaxy Express, the train blowing its whistle, rolling along that unknown track for Galaxy Express 39. I had no idea what this was. This was actually a fan sub tape from the age. So I was reading it like a 3rd grade level. So so I was trying to keep up, but it was one of those shows where you didn't really need the subtitles. It's all the visual language, everything like that spoke volumes. And honestly, I was hooked.
So was this the TV show, or was this one of the movies?
It was the TV show. It turns out my uncle was in a club. And it was a small club, and we watched Galaxy Express for a couple weeks, and then he took me to meet the club. And this was a bunch of like 20-something dudes, and I was an 8-year-old kid sitting there trying to just watch these interesting oddball cartoons that I had no idea what they were. I watched a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't have seen growing up. I'm still trying to figure out where like Dirty Pair and Angel Cop would fit into an 8-year-old child's diet, but here I am.
Preferably nowhere, but you know.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that the other guys in this club were like in their 20s. Like, how old was your uncle at this point? Was he like a younger, like college age guy, or
No,
like
he was a bit older. My uncle was, I don't remember the ages entirely, but I want to say younger 30s at that point, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to think, like, because I actually haven't seen him in about 25 years now, so it's been a long time.
so was there like a family connection to Japan? Or was it just he was like an animation fan and had connected with these people, and anime was the new hotness kind of at that point, and it was the height of like importing tapes.
A little both. He was in the military. If I remember correctly, I'm not sure if he was National Guard, I believe it was, but he had friends who were coming in from were like stationed in Okinawa, so
Okay.
they were he and his friends were able to get tapes through that. And it turns out this is something I learned out many years later, because I started to kind of make the gears turn. Like, how did they get Sailor Moon in '92? How did they get this and this and this? Like, at a point where these were almost impossible to get in this format. Like, I have a very good memory, and I did some as I was researching the book I'm writing, I realized that Anime Hashin, one of the longest running in big air clubs in the country, was based right in Warren, Rhode Island, which was about 5 minutes down the road. So I kind of put two and two together, and I mean, I don't know this for certain, but I'm kind of almost adamant on the idea that one of them had access to Anime Hashin's library.
That would almost certainly be the case, I think, just by piecing it together that way.
Yeah, like, this is like something where it's very much like putting two and two together. Like,
Yeah.
And at this time, there's only so many connections, I guess hookups, for lack of a better term, that you could have to get tapes of like broadcast television in the States, especially if you weren't on the West Coast.
right.
So you have been into anime since you're very young. Were you by nature a writer? Was that something you kind of had like an early interest in, or did it kind of develop along with your interest in anime? Did one lead to the other, or was it kind of something that had always been there?
The desire to write actually came about in late middle school, early high school. When I was really young, I actually wanted to be a software engineer. I want to make video games.
Yeah, as you do as a kid.
As you do as a kid, yeah. But as I got older, I found that I really enjoyed writing, and I liked writing about video games and anime. I mean, I started a GeoCities page way back in the day where I would publish video game reviews and anime reviews. They're still in archives. I'm not going to tell you what they are because they are embarrassingly bad.
I was about to ask. I'm sure you have them stashed away somewhere.
I don't have them on hand, but I know where to get them. But from there, it just kind of became a passion of mine. Like, I was always into anime since those young days. To the point where back in high school, I was one of the tape connections, kind of. I was one of those people where a friend would bring me a blank, say my friend wants episodes this, and this, and I would make copies of it for him. So it just kind of, the two really kind of came together at that point.
So I want to go back to the Anime Herald, and you're bringing it as a print magazine, and obviously we're in a period right now where print is I don't want to say dying. I just want to say that it's in a very awkward position right now. If I'm not mistaken, the only print magazine for anime or otaku culture is Otaku USA. And it looks like you guys are taking a really different sort of path than what might be expected, because for as long as I've kind of known anime magazines, it has mostly been, reviews and like convention coverage. And it seems like you guys are taking more of almost like an academic approach, talking about kind of putting anime within a cultural context, and also like interviewing people like Helen McCarthy, who we've also spoken with, and taking a look at sort of taking a look at angles of anime fandom that might not see coverage in sort of a general interest magazine that you might normally find. And I'm wondering, like, what was your sort of theory or sort of like motto when it came to we're going to bring this to print? Because it seems like you've had a different take than maybe what other anime magazines would maybe want to start off with.
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about for a very long time. Because we were actually going to be doing. I actually wanted to do something back in 2020 for our 10th anniversary. Nothing as big as ambitious as this, but like a smaller pocket-sized zine format. But unfortunately, in 2020 we had the COVID-19 pandemic, and I lost my job, so that kind of got put on the back burner for now. But
Well, you know, two very small inconveniences, of course.
Oh yeah, minor inconveniences, of course. But yeah, I've been thinking about what I would like to see in an anime magazine going forward. And I read a lot of old anime magazines. I'm not gonna lie. As part of my research for my book project is just something I do for fun on nights where I really just kind of needed to de-stress. I go through old issues of On America, Anime Insider, New Type USA, and I started reading through and saying, all right, so here are the things that I like and here are the things I don't like. I would like to see what happens if I can bring all this together into a format that would work for a sustainable long-term publication, because the classical format, as you mentioned, was reviews, news, a couple of tidbits, a couple of larger articles, all wrapped up. And in this day and age, it feels like that format just will not work, because if you want anime news, you have Anime News Network, you have Crunchyroll, you have
plenty of options to sort of get served with that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want reviews, the formats that we have now, the weekly streaming, are immediately outdated for print, because if you're publishing something with a 6-month lead time, no one's going to read the first or second episode reviews of a show that's out there now. So while I appreciate reviews, while I love what they're doing, it just doesn't work in a print format in that way anymore. And if I were going to do something like that for, like, say, future issues, I'd be looking for a different angle on how to really tackle a film review for the modern era, for the modern print publication. So the format we're going with, just long form articles, almost like an academic journal for this first issue, is very much meant to be a celebration of what we're doing and where we're going, which is why we chose to have several of our favorite classic articles run alongside the multiple new articles by folks like, say, Lindsay Loveridge, Jao Surratt, Chakami Tama, because we want to be able to just look to cherish the past while bringing forward the future, and really just kind of explore where we want to go with it for future issues, because this first issue is almost like a test of sorts. We want to see the articles that people like, we want to see the formats people like, and I'll definitely be like reaching out to folks that purchased that first issue to see if they'd be to see what their thoughts are and what they'd like to see more of, things like that, just so we can kind of make this into something that will be like genuinely, truly long-lasting and sustainable for the future.
And I think that's a really good idea, just looking at it, even just from like a purely like a final product perspective, because like if you make this piece now where it's like, you know, it's not super timely. I mean, it is sort of situated in time, of course, but if you make it in this way, you could conceivably still be selling copies of this in 2027, 2028, if you want to do like multiple print runs, and you wouldn't have to make any changes because the content in it would still be relevant. So you'd be able to continuously make it available alongside like newer issues if you chose to do it that way.
Exactly. We want to make this into something where if you're reading it today, or you're reading it in 6 years, it's going to be just as interesting, and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
something that you can take away from it.
Mm-hmm.
As for why we're doing print, honestly, this is just a dream of mine. It's I love print magazines. I really do. They feel like they're basically just like little time capsules of a fandom and an era that's long gone. Like I just find this immense joy in opening, say, an issue of say Manga Max in the turn of the millennium, and reading an issue about how the year 2000 is going to shape the anime industry, or how in an issue of On America they're talking with Osamu Dezaki and exploring the then new series of Slayer's Next. Like, I always found that to be incredibly special and something that I've always wanted to really kind of capture in what we do.
I don't know if this was necessarily in your head, Sam, but one observation that I was thinking of, that I've noticed over the last, I would say, handful of years is sort of the explosion in popularity of like zine culture, where like traditional magazines maybe like, big air quotes like dying or whatever, or even like literally dying without the air quotes. But like zine culture and like fanzines and stuff like that for like niche communities seem to be growing in popularity and becoming more, but more created more often by like independent publishers and small publishers, and seem to be like every time I hear about a zine, it seems like they almost always sell out. I mean, that might just be because of small print runs or what have you, but there seems to definitely be a lot of interest there. And I think something like this, which is so obviously made with a lot of love and a lot of care and will be a truly quality product, both as like a fandom experience and just like a cool magazine. I think this could also sort of tap into that kind of energy too.
Yeah, that is very much my hope. Because honestly, I have a lot of respect for the zine scenes. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
They are without a doubt the earliest and longest running reporters of any niche fandom,
Mm-hmm.
and this explosion that we're seeing lately, especially now that we have groups like, say, Giant Robo FM, and
Mm-hmm.
I believe Colony Drop's putting one out
Yep.
fairly
Simmer.
soon.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And just this growth of fanzines in particular has been nothing but encouraging, because I just love seeing that passion, that genuine interest and excitement that comes from every new issue. Like, I actually just got the new Giant Robot FM issue this afternoon, and I'm really looking forward to tearing into that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was going to say that recently I work with words for my day job, and with AI and everything, I feel like all I do is read garbage, uh, just filler. And I've made a
Oh, and we
concerted
get the
effort.
earful of it every day in the group chat.
But
You do not want me to get started on AI.
we'll probably bring that up at some point. But I was going to say that like I've reached a point in my life where I have the kind of financial security that I can spend money on things that I care about, and like you, I really miss the feeling of like a physical like magazine. I was a kid that I got Nintendo Power, and
Mm.
later in high school I started reading anime magazines and getting stuff like that. And I really miss that feeling of it comes out on a much slower scale than a constant update system like a website has to do to get traffic.
Mm.
They're usually longer form. There's usually more care put into them, and for a lot of these fandom publications, for lack of a better term, because the motivation for creating it is so different than a print magazine that's usually just for profit for a large publishing firm. There's a level of quality or at least obsession that I find very appealing. I've started subscribing to a lot of fanzines or fan publications for my non-anime interests, and collecting back issues of of older ones, and it really is just fascinating to see, like, in a pre-internet or like an early internet age, like where all this energy and passion, it is a time capsule. I have a stack of Rocky Horror fanzines that I bought from a friend of mine who used to be the editor, and she just has like boxes of them in her garage that were leftover extra prints, and it's fascinating to see um like even things just like the layout and the choice of fonts like kind of put me as like, oh yeah, this is 2003, this is 2003 all over here. I saw like an ad for a fan that I'm friends with now who makes costumes, and like she has like an ad for her very first like cosplay commissions that she took. um and there's just something special about holding something in time, and I'm sure as someone who you worked at Anime Dream until around 2010, like that is when new media really started taking a look at itself.
Mhm.
And there are tons of, especially for things like video game sites, a lot of nerd culture, reviews, articles, interviews that are just gone now because whatever private equity firm bought the publisher, cleaned out the websites, and they weren't archived, and the original authors might not have kept backups, and they're just gone. Um, and that's a lot of like fandom
Culture
information and
loss.
ultra
Yeah.
loss, and just community information that can be used to like. I, at the risk of sounding like really schmaltzy, like I take a lot of like personal, like I have a lot of affection for like people who came before me and did stuff, especially if they did it, again, not to be too like treacly, like the old fashioned way, where I had to like do boots on the ground recording at an anime con and like track down this Japanese guest and like try to get a moment of their time. Like there's something special about like holding on to this information and keeping it in
Mm.
circulation, and or at least keeping it archived in a way that like, okay, hopefully the fans of tomorrow or the people who share this interest and hobby of in the future will want to turn back to it and either like cherish it or even be like, okay, I want to do better.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, the whole idea, like the whole, as you mentioned, just there's just so much that just doesn't exist anymore. And I'll be honest, like I have run into this so many times where researching something for, I'm going to bounce back to the book again.
Mhm.
Researching something for that, I'll have like a memory of like an article or something like that hit in 2005, 2006 for a site like say anime on DVD or on a news network, anime news service or Akadot or something like that, and it just doesn't exist anymore. You can go through archives, you can look through billions upon billions of pages, and if you're really lucky, you'll find a snippet of it, but you won't get the whole thing ever again. And that was something that, like, for a print publication, I always found really just fascinating. The fact that these are, once it's out there, unless all the copies are destroyed for some reason, it's out there forever. So if someone wants to reference this in 10, 15, 20 years, they can locate a copy, they can go through, and it's something where it'll be something that they can hopefully find either relevant, interesting, or at the same time, like as you mentioned, the inspiration for something better. Like I would love to see people keep building in on what the current media groups are doing right now, because I just love seeing that burst of fandom energy, especially in this day and age, as you have the old guard is not getting any younger. Like I am in my 40s now. Chris Beveridge is older than I am. Like we are have been in this field for many years at this point. Like Chris was around since 98, 97 actually. Um and I've been around since 2002, and at some point we're all just going to just get too old, too tired to do it. So I love seeing people just kind of pick up that inspiration and run with it. I do.
I am curious, and you don't have to name names, but you mentioned going back to older anime magazines that you had copies of, and finding things you liked or didn't like. What are some improvements that you wanted to see in the print version of Anime Herald based on the older media that you had to kind of work as a guide?
I'll be honest. Personally, I have a lot of fondness for the old on America format. The initial, like, 5, 6 years before the turn of millennium. Because it was a very clean format. It was very well structured, a good balance of academic style, like long form articles, to shorter puncher pieces. But and I would love to really kind of return to that format personally, like at some point. This first issue is going to be a bit different as it's a lot of very long form, a lot of big pieces. But I would love to be able to, if possible, return to that format where you're giving a combination of like these long form investigative articles, and interviews with folks like say Helen McCarthy for our first issue or Neko Tofu for our first issue, along with shorter pieces from folks that have been in the field in some format for many years. Like one of my favorite columns from On America was, I believe it was From the Forest. It was the manager of a Japanese retailer, and he just gave his thoughts on the current trends in the market at the time, and they're just a fascinating time capsule. I would love to kind of see if I can bring voices like that into the fold, where we just have a perspective that either doesn't get looked at often in this day and age, or doesn't really kind of have a huge place in this day and age. And I am still kind of learning as we go along. As for improvements, I'm still kind of learning as we go along. So it's very much a case where there's definitely going to be some trial and error no matter what, because I've never done this before, and I'll be honest, it's like jumping into the fire head first. But yeah, I am genuinely thankful to be working with so many amazing people for this issue, from our amazing writers, Lindsay, Chiaki, Ali, and so many others, along with Katie for our layouts and Pepe Graphics for our cover, Jose Salat. It's been just such a great experience to bring all these people together.
You know, it is funny because we kind of have a local connection to Jose Salat, because he was hired for the first time like many years ago by a local video game store to North Carolina called Lost Ark Video Games, to do a lot of their mascot and character art. And he's been doing that for, gosh, Sully, what would you say? Probably like 6 or 7, 8 years, maybe not quite that long, but quite some time. So there's this gigantic billboard in in Greensboro, North Carolina, with his art on it for Lost Ark Video Games. And Lost Ark had a festival celebrating, I think, their 10th anniversary a couple years ago, and they flew him up here from South America, and I got to meet the guy, and he signed my Project Echo print. So it's great to see him involved in this project because his art's fantastic.
Yeah, he is such a cool dude.
I think that Lost Ark has had him maybe for a decade, because I feel like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
2025. I feel like maybe 2015 is when I vaguely remember seeing his art as like their merchandising art. I don't know off the top of my head. The memories of my undergraduate years are vague and foggy now.
That is genuinely cool though. It really
Yeah.
is.
If
I mean, it kind of
next yeah, whenever I will send you a picture of it. It's quite amusing.
I would
Yeah.
love to see it. That sounds genuinely cool.
It is great.
It's kind of funny that the anime world is like, in some ways it feels like there's so many like anime fans just out there and watching shows and talking about them, and then so many like within like smaller fandoms for shows themselves, and then at the same time I'm like, oh, it's kind of a tiny world. Like I do like just know people now, like on a polite professional level. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that guy, and it really is kind of a wild experience. I was going to ask you. You've mentioned that researching North American anime fandom is a big interest of yours, and uh, what exactly drives that interest? Because I kind of share it, but maybe not to the same degree that you do. But I mean, it's very easy to be a fan of anime. It's a different thing to be a fan of fans of anime.
I've always had an interest in the history of the medium, the history of the industry, because it's something where it's just I got to see so much of the industry come up around us, just having been jumped in so early, and the medium itself has always been fascinating to me. So being able to really kind of trace that to its origins was always something I always found genuinely cool, and I always had a lot of respect for folks like, say, Fred Patton, Helen McCarthy, Jonathan Clements, who've really kind of given their all to chronicle how all this stuff came together. And my interest in fandoms really came about as I kind of really got embedded in the anime community, especially as I started working within the field and things like that. Because over the years, I would meet people and I'd hear stories from them. And they talk about some of the crazy stuff they did in high school or college or in their early days as a reporter. Because we run in the same circles, obviously. But as I got older, those people that I used to talk with and listen to stories from started to kind of fade away, vanish. And some retired, some got out of the fandom, and sadly some passed away. And I had this realization that our fandom's history is still very much an oral one. So I really started to take an interest in kind of bringing that into print and kind of chronicling how this all came together. So I did a podcast with Lauren Arsini, an episode where we were talking about her new book, Build Your Anime Blog. And she, at the end of the episode, she challenged me to think up a book that I want to write that only I could write. And it's something that I said, all right, sure, I'll do that. Like, it was always in the back of my mind, but it really kind of hit. Funny enough, at the early phases of the pandemic, because the COVID-19 pandemic, because I had lost my job. I suddenly had a lot of free time, and I could not go outside because, quarantines. So I started thinking about these stories that these folks would tell, these experiences that I would hear about, these really wild experiences that I used to see on forums and Usenet, things like, say, Save Our Sailors, or Anime Web Turnpike, or the wild geostage shrines, and I really wanted to start learning more. So I had a lot of time, I had a lot of ambition, and at that point I'd been in the industry for, oh my god, 18 years. And I just started, I went on Twitter and I put a call for people to reach out with their stories, and I started reaching out to some friends within the field to see if they'd be willing to share with me. And that really kind of sparked my interest in going a bit deeper, a bit further, because each story kind of gave me more questions and more things that I want to look into, another wrinkle, another experience that I want to hear more about. And it just inspired me, like, to be able to see how this wild, quirky fandom that we're in, this oddball subculture that was started by tape pirates and generally a lot of just sci-fi nerds that kind of spread out across the country into this big, amazing thing, just started to be an inspiration for me. Yeah, it just kind of drives me to this day. It's something where I want to tell that I want to keep writing. I want to hopefully in the next year or two have a book that tells our story, because it's something that I really want to be able to share that with people. I want to share this community story. I want to share these firsthand accounts and these firsthand experiences with as many people as I can.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of energy to kind of do that sort of thing, because I'm thinking of sort of other adjacent projects that sound similar to what you're thinking of. So, for example, like Animego's interview series that they've been putting out at a decent clip with some of those talking head interviews with some people from, anime industry years past. I know a kind of a smaller, slightly more intimate thing that has gotten like a little bit of traction is I know the Anime World Order podcast has tried to encourage people to send in like what is it, like reflections or memoriams of fandom people that meant a lot to their listeners, and to sort of immortalize them, so to speak, in that podcast. And so it seems like I'm encouraged as somebody who's from like a generation younger than you all, to see that you all are having these conversations and like getting out there and doing something about it to share these stories with younger folks like us, and then even younger folks from the generation underneath us, so that it will be around both today and for the future. So it's great to hear that this is all happening.
Austin, even you've been doing something that you have your Animazement archive, just chronicling
Oh,
the
don't
history
remind
of
me of my
our
shame.
of our state's big anime con. I like how you refer to it as your shame. I'm assuming that's just because you haven't done as much with it lately.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, I've tried to work on that project. It's the TLDR is getting when I was in graduate school, one of my projects was putting together a community archive, and I decided to center it around Animazement, the big convention here in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's been around for 25 years or so, and I got a lot of people send me great stuff. I've sourced most of the guidebooks and everything, but as I'm sure you understand very well, Sam, when life gets in the way, and you just don't have time to dedicate in the ways that you would like, projects tend to stall. So that's kind of the story for my archive, but it will continue one day.
I am looking forward to seeing it completed. I really am.
Thank you.
That is such a cool project.
Thank you. The site is up now, so you can see what is currently available. But I've got a lot more that I want to add to it, so it will happen.
All right, that's very cool. But yeah, I definitely sympathize.
Yeah.
I definitely sympathize as a workaholic who puts in something like 90 hours a week between my day job and Anime Herald. I definitely sympathize.
Bless you.
I mean, I did get to have my dream of being a software engineer, but it's a lot of work.
Somebody needs to become the Frank Cifaldi of anime and make the Video Game History Foundation, and then donate very large sums of money to it, and then it will be perfect. Yay. That's all.
Seriously. I mean, I can already think of a half dozen people that would be perfect to be archivists for that.
Indeed.
I did want to
I'll get them coffee.
I did want to bring it back to the print magazine for a moment. Uh, Kind of getting into the nitty gritty. How did you source the authors and the articles themselves? And were there any pieces that maybe people pitched to you that you would have used or you wanted to use, but just couldn't because either the timing wasn't right or there just wasn't enough space in what you felt like you'd be able to manage for the first print issue? How did it kind of get the ball rolling when it came to getting the actual contents of the magazine?
This first issue, I was very fortunate. I had a large number of people, like a list of people I really wanted to work with, like regardless. And that was a list of, I wanted to have 10 articles flat out, no matter what, because I just thought that was a good round number. It was something where that gives enough variety for everyone to find something that I can really fall in love with. Every single person on that list was someone that I know well and I respect highly. From Lindsay Loveridge to Dara Surratt to Erica Friedman, Shaka Mitama, Lucas DeReuter, Red Bar, Leah Rivers, and Allie Caps. They're all amazing people that I've had the pleasure of working with in some capacity, and it's been an honor and a pleasure, and I still look up to all of them very highly. Like, even to this day, I'm inspired by all the hard work they're doing, the amazing work they're doing. So I reached out to them with an offer. I said, hey, I'm putting together a magazine for our 10th anniversary. would you like to contribute? We're paying XYZ, which is for the print publication, because I'm paying for this out of pocket for this first one. I want to make sure that it was paying a rate that I was comfortable with. So it's basically like a multiple of what our typical print rate is, because our typical online rate was, because it's going into print. It's going to be something that's going to be available for a lot longer, that sort of thing. And I said, for the topics, you have carte blanche. I want you to write about the one article that you would really like to write, that either you just didn't have time, or didn't have the opportunity, or just didn't think that you'd be able to get it approved. Like, every single person on that list, I basically said the only limit was you have about 2,000 words, just so you can fit it into the magazine. And every single one, every single writer, I was thrilled, because they all pulled something that was like so genuinely different from some of the stuff that I've seen them write, but at the same time very much them in their entirety. From Lindsay Loveridge's article on Eroguro, to Daryl Surratt's history, his retrospective on his work for AWO, to Red Bard's history of convention signage, which is just so. All of these are just so much fun to read, and I really hope that people enjoy them. It was a lot of, honestly, I was a wreck reaching out to these people, because it's like, I respect them highly, and it's just like, I have a lot of anxiety as it is. So I was over the moon when every single one of them said yes. I was over the moon, like genuinely overjoyed. I cried.
You mentioned Red Bard, and I know her mostly as a YouTuber. I've seen a few videos. I've seen the infamous Yowie Paddle YouTube video, which I'm a veteran of those wars. I was a gay man going to anime conventions in the early 2010s. I have dark flashbacks to that time period.
Wait,
But
stop. Is a yaoi paddle also a sign? The people want to know.
well, I guess the people
Sorry.
will have to go ahead and subscribe to the Anime Herald print edition if they want to
I guess
find out.
so. To find
Exactly.
out.
Is mayonnaise a sign? No, but what I was going to say is,
Sorry.
I do not know how old Red Bard is. My assumption is, oh, a child, a literal baby that is doing these YouTube videos, talking about.
Probably our age, if I had to imagine.
For some reason, I guess my assumption is, if someone is talking about the like late 2000s, early 2010s in anime fandom as though they are an archaeologist digging up some lost civilization, that they are like a zoomer and therefore think that I should be in a retirement home. So the whole point of this, I was trying to say, and it wound up making me seem like I'm Methuselah, was to me, and I could be very wrong, Red Bard is like a newer, younger voice in the anime space. And I was wondering if there were any other sort of rising voices in the anime community that you really admire or that you want to platform. Maybe not in this issue because you have your slate already, but if there's anyone else that you kind of look to as like, I really enjoy this person's work and they're kind of new to all this, but they're doing a lot of great things.
Yeah, one of the big ones is Coop Bicknell.
Hey, we know
right.
Coop.
We
know
love Coop.
Yeah, Coop, I would love to have them come in for issue number 2. I would love to have them, because their work has been nothing short of outstanding, from the articles they did with Anime Herald, to the interviews that they've been doing for Anime News Network, to even their box art copy for Discotheque. They have just been knocking it out of the park, and they are like very much someone that I've been inspired by, just reading their work.
You know what?
Likewise.
You heard it here, Coop. Get typing.
Get typing. If you didn't have enough to type already, which you do, well, here's some more.
How do you imagine the print magazine will kind of balance with the website itself? Obviously, it's going to be its own separate thing, and you want it to be very special. But I'm still kind of curious as to what you kind of see the valence as being.
it's its own separate thing, but at the same time, it's very much not, because it's something that we're all doing as a team still. I still want this to be a place where our editorial team can really kind of do what they do best. I want this to be a place where, um, like the like the web edition, we are platforming voices new and old, new and experienced, to really kind of get as many perspectives as we can possible, that are like on just generally interesting topics, things that I'd love to see come to fruition. Like for example, we actually just published something by Adam Westcott about Figure 17. Like that's another person that I would say is I would love to work with for issue number 2, by the way. But I would still like Anime Herald, the main site, to be a place where you can find articles like that, or say Kai Redfield's How Doujin Illustrators Influenced the Aesthetics of Japan's Underground Music Culture. Pieces that are still genuinely interesting, genuinely very much within that vibe. I don't want one to take away from the other. I'd like to see them both kind of support each other going forward, where our online publication is something where it's something you can basically read anytime, with new articles coming fairly regularly. But the print publication is something where it's only going to be coming out at this point. We are waiting for the sales to come in for issue number 1, but at the very least once a year. So those 10 articles or so that go into the next issue are still going to be something that fans can look forward to, but it's not going to be something that takes away from what we're doing every single week at the same time. It's just more cool articles, more interesting topics and insights, in a format that we feel would just really work super well for that.
You have your 10 new articles for the print publication. You're also going to be printing in the magazine sort of some of your favorite stuff from the website, from the archives. Do you think that'll be a recurring feature of the print publication? I know that I've started reading the Bomb Bugle, which is the Oz Club's fandom publication, and it was interesting to me that there are all these issues that are like best ofs of previous stuff, and that was from a time period prior to the internet. If someone wrote a really good article, and like you said, it exists somewhere, but it might be hard to track down a copy. The idea of like republishing these things like it helps increase their visibility and their accessibility. And now the issue is we never know if something gets taken offline by a company getting bought out, or even just something like some sort of random server outage somewhere.
Mm.
And I'm wondering if maybe this is another way to kind of preserve as much of the ephemerality, or prevent it from falling into oblivion, basically by having these best of articles reprinted in the physical copy.
Absolutely. It's not something we're not going to be doing, like the full slate like we're doing this time, just because this is an anniversary issue. But I'd like to have at least 1 or 2 every issue we do, just because, as you mentioned, online articles are incredibly ephemeral. And while I personally will not be selling out on my Herald anytime soon, I can say this for a fact. I've gotten buyout offers, and I've basically told them to go to take the offer and cram it. Because I just love what we're doing so much. But there's always that possibility, like, say something happens, or like you said, the server goes down and the backups are corrupted, or absolute worst case, I drop dead of a heart attack. And to be able to preserve that, to preserve some of these ephemeral articles, these pieces that may or may not be there in 15, 20 years, I want to be able to kind of preserve that.
You've mentioned getting buyout offers and declining
Yeah.
them, and I respect that immensely. I think it's really difficult to have these kind of open conversations about fandom and fan culture when so much of sort of the publishing apparatus. I mean, Crunchyroll is not going to do something that might make itself or Sony look bad in any way.
Yeah.
And certainly a lot of these other magazines, even if they're not owned by a particular company that has a stake in it, they might want to keep the lines of communication open by not like criticizing them too heavily. And I wish I wonder if you would be able to maybe talk about the importance of these sort of like fan funded, crowd funded, fan and writer supported efforts to do anime journalism that isn't necessarily beholden to a larger entity.
Oh god, yeah. As you mentioned, like some of these publications, like I'm not going to name names because obviously, but um, certain publications out there, there's there won't be as much of a drive to rock the boat because that means either losing access or losing ad deals or things like that. The fact that we have public a surprisingly vibrant independent sphere from Anime Herald to Yatatachi to Anime Feminists and so on is incredibly important to especially anime fandom, because anime fandom in particular has always had a big independent streak to what we do. From the earliest days with zine cultures, like say the CFO's Fantazine, Space Fanzine Yamato, or Anime Zine, in from Robert Fenelon. There's always been a strive to really kind of deliver something that goes above and beyond and punches above its weight in terms of what it's delivering, while at the same time, kind of a lot of us work on a shoestring budget. Like, I'll be honest, your typical anime publication runs on less than $400 a month. Where a lot of us are doing this either as a second job or as something that is supplementary. We work day jobs to make the night job, to make the work we want to do happen. And the fact that we have these independent fan-run publications is vastly important because it's a fandom that can't be. It's a fandom that can be honest, is the best way to put it. We don't have to worry about upsetting people. We don't have to worry about pairing back to appease, say, like paring back our views or anything like that, because we just don't have that in front of us. We don't have that incentive to do so. We can keep going deeper. We can keep we can
Talk about the topics that you want to talk about
Yeah.
in the ways that you want to discuss them without fearing like
Exactly.
you're going to make somebody mad.
exactly. We can.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I have made people mad in the past. No, just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Or being able to make people mad and being okay with that.
Oh,
I
yeah, absolutely.
I will mention that there was an official Crunchyroll product, shall we say, that was supposed to be a history, and it was very bad. To the point I only consumed it out of morbid curiosity, and I had to explain to someone recently. It's like just because a big company who says this is their thing does it is putting out this information. Sometimes that doesn't mean it'll be good. That you can't necessarily ask these entities to honestly or even skillfully relate their own histories back to you.
Yeah, and it takes like and it also, we're also enabled to do stuff that not even just honesty, but it enables to go into stuff that may not be hugely popular is the best way to put it. Like I do a lot of writing about anime history, for example, and I don't think anyone in the world would kind of do a forensic analysis of, say, Fantasy issue number 1 like we did, or a source history of the anime press as we're doing for issue number 1. Just because it's something where it's vital information, but at the same time, it's also very targeted and niche. Like, and being independent allows us to really kind of chase some of these topics that are not going to be as big, as profitable, or as like big traffic getters, because it's something that we really want to do as part of our passion.
And I mean this like only complimentary, but it's in that in particular, it's like a piece that's very like, it's like self-reflective, because
Right.
it's like you who are in this field examining the field itself. It's like a meta analysis kind of deal. And there doesn't seem to be like a general popular appetite for that kind of stuff, but the people who are really into it are like cravenly into the inside baseball of it all.
And they're willing to support something that's going to provide that kind of information and community to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
I will say, like I said, I did subscribe to Otaku USA when I was a high schooler, and then I lapsed from that, and I recently decided to resubscribe to it because, like I said, I've been trying to appreciate like print media more, and be like, if I want to see well written work about the things I care about, I need to put my money where my mouth is. And this is nothing against Otaku USA. I was still reading it, but they had like a bunch of reviews for stuff that I'd seen already. And because it was, like you said, currently streaming, and my thought was, not, oh, this is bad, but more, well, this isn't necessarily for me anymore. Like, this is for someone who is in high school, um, and maybe is, also wants a physical copy. I know that apparently like what they call bookazines, the magazines that are just like about a single topic. They're not like recurring periodicals. It's just like you see them in the grocery stores. Are apparently really popular with like K-pop fans. Like they buy them as collectibles and also like almost like beginners guides if they're getting into it. And I've been trying to see a lot of like, okay, I don't need a review of Witch Watch because I have seen enough of it and I have an opinion of it now, and I don't really need someone to help me decide if I want to watch it or not. That might be more useful though for someone who's younger, and that's what they need at this stage of their fandom, at this stage of their kind of development. And I'm glad that Anime Herald coming to print means, okay, maybe there's going to be something for, if you'll excuse this terminology, the real sickos like us who want to read
Yeah.
the really like the real inside baseball, who want to read meta analyses of North American anime fandom, who want to read about um they who wants to read an interview with Helen McCarthy and all of the other stuff you have planned, which I've read through the slate of articles you posted, and I'm really excited for so much of it. Like even just the anime signage. Like I do not know entirely what this article is going to be about. It is a mystery to us all right now, but like the signs were just like I read the title of that article. I was like, yeah, signs were like a weird part of like my formative anime experiences, like the free hug signs, the yaoi here signs. They were always done up like pride flags, like there was so much about like semiotics in that time period that I'm like, what was that about? That was such a weird thing, and I would not have thought about that if it had not been suggested to me by that article title. Like, even I'm thinking like the Durarara cosplayers who used to have to like argue with like, is my sign allowed as part of a cosplay? I'm not like soliciting anything, but like that was part of our history that like, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to know about it. What was with the
Yeah.
signs?
Listen, it's not vandalism. I'm throwing the vending machine. It's part of my cosplay, okay?
It's performance art.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. Oh god, yeah, that is a fascinating one. I actually just read that a couple of nights ago, the draft on that, and it is super interesting. You're in for a treat with that one.
And I am deeply excited for the Marxist analysis of Girls Band Cry. Can't
Oh
wait.
my god, that was oh man, I want to hear a reaction to that one when it comes out because I love that article.
Yeah, I've been watching through that series right now, and
Yeah.
it's pretty delightful. So I'll be very excited to read that one.
There has been a lot of.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of the stuff that comes through. I love reading this stuff as much as everyone else. I'm kind of a anime publication junkie.
There's been so much hay made about like the like anime fans are all weirdly right wing now, and I want to say like there's a very long, passionate history of left wing activism in anime spaces, especially in Japan. Like I do not think a Marxist analysis of any anime is particularly like unwarranted. Like there's a there.
Oh, it's quite a there.
To everyone that says that, I will say this. Every single one of your major anime publications at this point, from Anime Herald to Anime News Network to Anime Feminists to Yatatachi, I mean, a lot of us are very much left-wing people. We believe in just equality for all, elevating marginalized voices, and bringing people together, and social justice. So the fact that the common narrative is everyone's right wing has always been funny to me because I've never seen it that way. Like even going back to the early days. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of creepy sex bullshit, but at the same time, you had a very large queer space because the greater anime community was founded by honestly people who would go on to form the furry community as well.
Mm-hmm. I know Fred Patton was a huge intersection of that.
Yeah. As was Mark Merlino and Wanda Washer.
Mm.
There's another independent publication that is not fandom related that I read, and they also have a podcast. I'm not going to name them, but they were discussing like the Ghibli AI filter nonsense. But when they got to like, okay, so it's a studio, it's an anime studio filter, and these are all people who have worked in tech journalism for ages, and they all had this like weird like, oh, I don't quite know what that is. I think I might have seen Totoro, and there was a part of me that was like clocking, like, I think you're all lying through your teeth. Like, at least know what this is, but just still this sort of hesitancy and like, as though they were discussing something deeply unsavory. And they're talking about, I mean, the AI thing is unsavory, but like Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service, as though they were talking about like the most depraved John Waters film they'd ever heard of in their life, and it was funny to me because I'm like, there really is like this sort of apprehension towards anime fandom and this belief that it's really either like weird incel nut jobs or like people who have no intellectual curiosity, and this dismissal that I'm frankly still kind of surprised by as someone who's like, there's several scholarly books that I have paid $40 a pop for because they're scholarly books that are really well researched and well done about the important cultural and historical context that these things exist in. And I'm just glad that there's going to be more of those voices in a more accessible way because again, about roughly $20 for 10 brand new, really well done articles and some classics versus, $40 for a single monograph. Like that's something that like a teenager could reasonably afford.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm still kind of kicking myself that it has to be that high because I was trying to get it down to 15, but what happened was we were like about 4 hours before I was doing our town hall to announce it. I got an email from our printer who said, due to the recent tariffs from Donald Trump's Liberation Day, we are going to have to increase the rates to blah blah blah. And I had to try. I was like I just blanched. And I'm like, okay, I do not want to charge $20 for this thing. Let's see if I can get down to $17.95, which thankfully I was able to do.
Well, the tariffs may be affecting your anime magazine, but remember, anime is not political, so we can't bring politics into it. That was a joke.
Yes. Yeah, that famously non-political work, The Wind Rises.
Very non-political.
No,
Rosa.
no anime has ever had any ideas about how the world should be run in any possible conceivable way.
No, it's all about
It's
Luffy.
just
It's all
science.
about Luffy stretching. That's it.
He's stretching.
Mm-hmm.
So the print magazine will be out. The publication date was pushed back a little bit to November, but it will hopefully meet its November publication date, and at the suggested retail price currently of $17.95. Samantha, you've mentioned that you're working on a book. Is there any idea of like when that might be hitting publication? Do you have a publisher in mind, or is it still in the draft stages?
Still in the draft stages, but once we get this project into the point where the layout artists have it and all that, and we can kind of start getting an estimate on when we can get this to printer and things like that. I'm going to be returning to that. Only taking a break to ship out these pre-orders, because after this first issue, we're going to be switching to a POD model, so we can make sure that it's available for as long as people need it. As long as people desire a copy. I don't intend to take this out of publication unless we get sued or something.
You've mentioned so far that the idea is the publication frequency will be kind of based on this first issue, the interest shown in it, and you were looking at like at most quarterly, at least annually.
Correct, because I want to say for anything more than that, like say bi-monthly or monthly, we would need a circulation of around 10 to 15,000 copies. That way we can pay we can pay our staff full-time rates that they actually, full-time rates at a fair rate is the big thing I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because I refuse to do any project where the people around me are getting paid anything less than what they're worth. I've been an advocate for bringing up the price of the rates for editors, for writers. We're actually trying to get to a point where we're paying $55 an article for our web version. I'd like to get that up to 75 at some point, but we're just we have our funding milestones before we can kind of bump it up. And we're just trying to get there as well as we can, as sustainable as we can, so we can make this a much more sustainable, much more workable place. Because at this point, it's a scary place. Like, as we've seen publications just laying off their entire staffs, closing their doors, just getting consumed by giant conglomerates. And I really don't want to keep seeing that. I want Anime Herald and the anime field in general to be a place where we can at least kind of keep building each other up, building up people who really want to be able to do this and keep doing this in a hopefully in 5, 6, 7 years have spaces where we actually can afford to have like someone make a career out of it again. Because I put a lot of value in human writing. I put a lot of value in human editing, the human touch on things, because let's be honest, there's a lot of things, particularly for especially this field, that you just can't do with a computer, with an AI slop generator. Because all they're doing is stealing from the rest of us.
Right. And eating itself in the process.
Oh yeah, it's an Ouroboros, and it's gonna just choke on itself sooner or later.
Right.
Well, we will have a link to the order form for issue 1 of the print version of Anime Herald, and we'll have a link to the website itself so people can start reading some of the work that you and your team have been putting together. Is there anything else that you would like to plug, Samantha?
I would say this is not a specific plug, but if you really enjoy an anime publication, a podcast, an outlet, back their Patreon, back their Coffee, because every single dollar helps. I mentioned this earlier in the show, but your average anime publication runs on far less than $500 a month, and the fact that a lot of us are being able to do that on such a thin budget is nothing short of a miracle. So every single dollar really does help. It really helps us all to do more. It helps us all to make a better experience for you, and it helps us all to basically just keep doing what we're doing at the level we're doing. Because at this point, the ad market has kind of fallen apart. A lot of us are really dependent on our backers and our patrons. So yeah, if you like a publication, whether it's Anime Herald, Third Impact Anime, Yatatachi, Anime Feminist, Okazu, Fandom Post, any of them, like, or many others that I just don't have the time to mention. Back to Patreon, back to Coffee. They will definitely appreciate it and be genuinely grateful.
Absolutely true. Completely agree, and we really do appreciate
Same.
the hard work that you put in, because, you know, like you said, this is not your full-time job. You do this like only because you have a huge passion for it, and it really does, not to get super sappy about it, but it generally makes the community a better place with having publications like yours exist here, and being a place that other writers can contribute to, and also in their own way contribute to making this a better place to be in. So thank you for that.
Not all. Thank you.
And with that, thank you, Samantha, so much for sharing all of this with us. I'm so excited to get the issue in my hands. I've already pre-ordered it, and let us know if there's any other way we can help. Like Austin said, it's really important to make sure that things like this exist in fan spaces, so we can kind of cultivate the community that we want.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Once again, a huge thanks to Samantha for coming on the show and talking to us about the first issue of the upcoming Anime Herald magazine, which should be launching any day now from the time of the release of this episode. It is currently available for pre-order on animeherald.com in both print and digital formats, as well as a bundle where you can get both. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks to Sully for hosting this episode. And if you'd like to support Third Impact Anime, you can do so most easily by sharing this episode with a friend, or by leaving us a rating or a review on whatever podcast platform you prefer. If you'd like to throw a couple bucks our way, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/thirdimpactanime. This is also a good time to mention another interview with Sam that dropped on Yatatachi, written by a friend of the show, Coop, that was conducted after our podcast was recorded, but I am a pretty slow podcast editor sometimes, so that got out weeks before this did, so joke's on me. Of course, it is an awesome interview, and Coop and Sam cover a couple things that we didn't get around to, so check the heck out of that over there on yatatachi.com. And yeah, we will see you next time.